The lights in the studio were warm but not blinding. Familiar black curtains framed the stage. The soft hum of the equipment mixed with the quiet rustle of the audience settling into their seats. Joe Rogan leaned forward slightly in his chair, his eyes locked on Keanu Reeves as if he had been waiting years to ask what he was about to say. The cameras rolled, the microphones picked up every small breath, and yet there was a strange stillness in the air, as though everyone present had agreed to hold their hearts still for a moment. Keanu sat quietly, his posture calm but not stiff. His hands rested loosely in his lap, fingers brushing against each other in that subtle way he often did when thinking. His hair fell slightly into his eyes, and when he blinked, it was slow, thoughtful, as if each blink was a tiny act of patience. Joe's voice came low, almost gentle as he leaned into the question. "Keanu," he said, "after everything you've been through, all the loss, all the moments you've kept private, what do you think happens to us when we die?" Wasn't a question about movies or fame or training for a role. It was raw, human, the kind of question that goes past the armor we wear in daily life and touches the part of us that aches quietly in the dark. For a moment, Keanu didn't answer. The silence was not empty, it was full of something unspoken. Like the pause before a storm or the space between a heartbeat and the next. His gaze drifted slightly, not to avoid Joe's eyes, but as if he was looking inward, searching for the right shape of the truth he carried, when he finally spoke. His voice was deep but soft, each word slow, almost careful. "I know that the ones who love us will miss us." Words were simple. So simple, in fact, that at first, the audience seemed to miss the weight in them. But then the quiet hit, an aching quiet that spread through the room. The sound guy shifted in his seat, an assistant in the corner swallowed hard, and Joe's own eyes softened. But that wasn't all. Keanu didn't stop there. His fingers tightened just a little in his lap, and his gaze came back to Joe, steady and unblinking. "I think," he continued, "we carry pieces of each other. We go, those pieces, they stay. The way someone laughs because you once made them laugh. The way they remember your favorite song when it plays in a store. The way they hold their coffee cup like you did. We don't just disappear, we leave echoes." Joe leaned back slowly, as if taking in the gravity of what he'd just heard. Keanu's life had not been one of untouched joy. People knew bits and pieces, the stories about his childhood, his losses, the accidents, the tragedies. But what made the moment so powerful was that he wasn't speaking as a celebrity giving an interview. He was speaking as a man who had been broken and had somehow learned to live with the cracks without trying to hide them. He shared how years ago he would sit alone in his apartment at night, looking out over the city lights, wondering if the people he'd lost could see him. He talked about the nights when grief felt like cold water filling his lungs, when it was easier to stay in bed than to stand and face the day. "But," he said with a small, almost invisible smile, "life has a way of surprising you. Sometimes it's not big things. Sometimes it's someone holding a door for you when your arms are full, or a stranger smiling at you in a way that feels like they understand. Those moments, they can keep you going." Joe's eyes didn't leave him. "So you think kindness is the thing that stays?" Keanu nodded. "Kindness and love. They're the only things that make sense. I've been in rooms full of money and power, and none of it means anything if there's no kindness. It's strange. Is about not breaking. But real strength is about breaking, still choosing to love again." The studio felt smaller, like everyone was sitting in a shared circle, as though the walls had pulled in closer to hold them all in the warmth of that truth. Keanu shifted slightly in his chair, leaning forward now, his elbows on his knees, and "Here's the thing," he said, his voice dropping a little lower, almost like a secret. "We all have no idea how much time we have left, so I try to tell the people I care about what they mean to me while they can still hear it. I try to do the little things, 'cause maybe in the end, those are the big things." Joe's jaw tensed slightly, the way it does when he's feeling something he's trying not to show. He nodded, not rushing the moment. "Man," he said, quietly, you just made me think about a lot of stuff." A ripple of soft laughter moved through the audience, not because it was funny, but because sometimes you laugh when the truth hits you in a place that's too tender to touch. Directly, Keanu smiled faintly, his eyes dropping for a moment before lifting again. "We can't control much in this life," he said. "But we can control how we treat each other. Maybe that's enough." The camera zoomed in slightly, capturing the lines on his face, the gentleness in his expression. And somewhere in the back row, someone blinked away a tear they hadn't expected to shed. That was the moment the story truly began, not with a blockbuster, not with a fight scene, not with fame, but with a quiet truth from a man who had learned to live gently in a world that had not always been gentle to him. And yet, unknown to everyone in the room, this conversation was about to lead to something far bigger, something that would test everything Keanu had just said, pushing his beliefs into the rawest parts of reality. The universe was listening, and soon. It would answer in a way no one could have predicted. The days after the interview felt almost unreal. Joe Rogan's episode with Keanu Reeves went viral faster than anyone expected. Clips of Keanu's quiet, heartfelt words flooded social media, stitched with captions like, "This is what humanity needs right now, and the most honest thing you'll hear today." Strangers around the world were sharing the video, telling their own stories of grief, kindness, and love. But while the internet celebrated him, Keanu went on with his life quietly. He had never been the kind of man to get caught in the wave of attention. Still walked to his favorite corner coffee shop, still rode the subway, still paused to help a lost tourist with directions. To him, those small, ordinary things mattered more than any trending hashtag, yet something strange began happening. People didn't just recognize him, they approached him differently now. Not like fans asking for autographs, but like old friends carrying burdens they had never shared aloud. On a Wednesday afternoon, as the rain tapped softly against the cafe window, a young man sat across from him. Keanu had been reading a book. When the man hesitated nearby, "Excuse me," the man said, his voice trembling. "I saw your interview. The one where you talked about losing people you love." Keanu closed the book gently, giving him his full attention. "Yeah, he said softly. "Come sit." The man's name was Elias. He was 28, but his eyes carried the weight of someone twice his age. He told Keanu about losing his sister in a car accident just months ago. He told him how the silence in his apartment felt heavier every night, how his friends tried to cheer him up, but only made him feel more alone. Keanu didn't interrupt. He didn't try to fix anything. He just listened, nodding slowly now and then. When Elias finished, Keanu leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "You don't have to rush through it," he said. "Grief isn't a race. It's like the ocean. Some days it's calm. Some days it knocks you down so hard you can't breathe. But every time you stand back up, you learn the tide won't kill you. You just keep standing." Elias's eyes watered. "But how? How do you keep going when it feels like you've lost the best part of yourself?" Keanu's voice stayed steady. "You find the pieces they left you. Maybe it's a memory, a song, a smell, and you keep it alive. You make them proud by living in a way they would have wanted for you." That conversation might have ended there, but fate was listening again. As Keanu left the cafe, his phone buzzed with a message from an old friend. Mia, who worked for a nonprofit that supported children who had lost their parents. "We saw your interview," she wrote. "It touched a lot of the kids. We're having a community night this Friday. Will you come?" No cameras, just us. Keanu hesitated only for a second before replying, "I'll be there." That Friday evening, he walked into the small community hall. The air smelled faintly of crayons and hot cocoa. Folding chairs were arranged in a circle, and about a dozen kids, aged 6 to 15, sat waiting. Some looked curious, some guarded, some just tired. Mia introduced him simply. "This is Keanu. He's here to talk, or to listen, whatever you need." For the next hour, stories spilled out. A boy named Liam talked about missing his dad's jokes. A girl named Sophia shared how she still set an extra plate at dinner for her mom. Keanu listened to each one as if it were the most important thing in the world, and then Sophia, with wide, searching eyes, asked the question no adult in the room had dared to answer plainly. "Mr. Keanu, is it okay if I don't want to be happy?" Yet the room went still. Keanu knelt beside her chair so they were eye level. Yes, he said firmly. It's okay. You don't have to rush to be okay. You just have to keep taking little steps, even if they're small. Some days, the best thing you can do is just breathe. He didn't know it yet, but this simple night in a small hall was about to change the course of his next few months. Because one of those children, Liam, would later face a crisis that would pull Keanu into a chain of events that no movie script could have written, events that would test the very truths he had shared on Joe's show, for now. He walked out into the cool night air, the city lights flickering above. He felt the quiet weight of all those stories resting in his chest, and he knew something was coming, something he could not yet name. 2 weeks passed quietly, or at least it seemed that way on the surface. Keanu kept filming during the day, and spending his evenings reading, walking, or quietly helping at local shelters. But in the back of his mind, the memory of the community night still lingered, the fragile voices of the children. The way Liam's laugh carried a note of sadness even when he tried to hide it. One rainy afternoon, Keanu was leaving the set. When his phone buzzed, the caller ID showed Mia's name. Her voice was tight, rushed. "Keanu, it's Liam. Something happened." The words pulled him into instant focus. What happened? His grandmother, his only guardian, collapsed this morning. She's in the hospital, and it's bad. Liam's at the Children's Services office. They can't find any other family. The sound of rain hitting the pavement around him seemed to fade. Where is he exactly? Keanu asked. Mia gave him the address, and without another word, he got in his car. When he arrived, the small waiting room smelled faintly of disinfectant and worn carpet. Liam was sitting in a plastic chair, his knees pulled up to his chest, his hoodie pulled low over his face. Keanu approached slowly, crouching down so his voice would meet the boy where he was. "Hey, Liam." The hood lifted just enough for their eyes to meet. Liam's voice cracked. "She's all I had." Keanu didn't say it's going to be okay because he knew that in this moment it wasn't. Instead, he put a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "You're not alone right now. We'll figure this out together." The caseworker, a woman in her 40s, with tired eyes, came over. "Oh, Mr. Reeves, we can place him in emergency foster care tonight, but he's understandably upset." Keanu stood, his voice calm but firm. "If there's no immediate family, I can take him in. Just temporarily, until we know more." The caseworker blinked in surprise. You're serious?" Keanu glanced at Liam. "I'm serious." That night, Liam sat quietly in the passenger seat of Keanu's modest black car, a small duffel bag on his lap. The city lights streaked across the windows as they drove toward Keanu's home. Neither spoke much. Sometimes silence was the most respectful thing you could give someone in grief. When they arrived, Keanu showed Liam the guest room. "It's yours for as long as you need," he said. "You don't have to talk tonight. Just rest." Over the next few days, Keanu made small adjustments to his life without fanfare. Cooked breakfast with Liam in the mornings, making sure to include pancakes because he'd noticed the boy ate them first at the community night. They went for walks, with no agenda, just letting the fresh air loosen the weight in their chests. But grief wasn't linear. One night, Keanu found Liam sitting in the dark living room, clutching a photo of his grandmother. "I should have been there," Liam whispered. Keanu sat beside him. "I've said that to myself more times than I can count," he admitted. "But the truth is we can't be everywhere. Can't stop everything bad from happening. All we can do is keep loving the people we have left." Liam's eyes stayed on the photo. "But I don't have anyone left." Keanu's voice softened even more. "You have me. Maybe not forever, but right now you do." What neither of them knew was that outside this small, safe circle they had built, a storm was forming. A distant relative, someone Liam had never met, was about to come forward, claiming custody. The case would go to court, and the fight over where Liam would live would test every ounce of patience and resilience Keanu had. And for the first time in years, he would feel the sting of powerlessness, the one thing he had learned to live with, but never fully accepted. It started with a phone call from the caseworker. Her voice was cautious, like someone delivering news they knew would not be welcomed. Mr. Reeves. Oh. A man named Raymond Foster has contacted us. He's a second cousin of Liam's grandmother. He says he wants custody. Keanu's hand tightened. Around the phone? Does Liam even know him? No. And from our initial check, Raymond hasn't been in contact with the family in over 10 years. But legally, he has the right to petition. The court will decide. After the call, Keanu sat at the kitchen table, staring at the faint scratches in the wood grain. Liam was in the other room, sketching in a notebook. The thought of sending him to live with a stranger who had never been there for him before felt wrong. But Keanu also knew the law didn't always match the heart. That night, he didn't hide the truth from Liam. There's someone who says, "He's family," he said gently. "He wants to take you in." Liam froze. "I don't even know him. Why would I go with him?" Keanu didn't have a good answer, so he gave the honest one. "We're going to do everything we can to make sure you're somewhere safe. Somewhere you want to be. But we might have to fight for it." Over the next week, Keanu met with a lawyer, a quiet woman named Nora, who had handled many custody cases. She laid out the reality. "Keanu, the court will look at blood relations. First, we'll need to show not just that you care for Liam, but that it's in his best interest to stay with you. That means proving you can give him stability, support, and emotional safety." Keanu thought about the last few weeks about Liam eating pancakes with a faint smile, about their quiet walks, about the night he'd whispered, "You have me," in the dark living room. He knew this wasn't just about legal arguments. This was about showing the court that love was more than biology. Then came the day they met Raymond Foster. It was in the hallway outside the family court office. Raymond was a tall, broad man, in his 50s, wearing an expensive suit that didn't hide the cold sharpness in his eyes. His handshake was firm, almost aggressive. "I appreciate you looking after him," Raymond said to Keanu, his tone polite but edged. "But family should be with family." Keanu met his gaze steadily. Family is the people who show up. Where were you when his grandmother needed help? Raymond's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. Inside the courtroom, the judge listened as both sides spoke. Nora presented photos of Liam's life with Keanu these past weeks, miles over breakfast, walks in the park, the art projects they'd worked on together. She brought up the fact that Raymond had no relationship with the boy, no history of support, and no proof of a safe environment. Raymond's lawyer countered that Keanu's career meant he traveled often, that his lifestyle was unstable, and that blood ties should be honored. Liam sat quietly between Nora and Keanu, his small hands gripping the edges of his chair. When the judge asked if he wanted to speak, there was a long pause before Liam stood. "I don't know Mr. Foster," he said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "But I know Mr. Keanu. He listens to me. Doesn't try to fix everything, but he makes me feel like I matter. And I don't want to start over with someone who didn't even care before now." The room went still. Keanu felt the tightness in his chest ease just a little. But the judge didn't give a ruling that day. Instead, she ordered an evaluation. A social worker would visit both homes before making a decision. It meant more waiting, more uncertainty, and as they left the courthouse, Keanu noticed something in Raymond's eyes, something that wasn't just determination. It was calculation. The kind that suggested he might try to win by more than just legal means. The days that followed were tense, in a way Keanu hadn't felt in years. It wasn't the kind of tension that came from filming an intense scene or facing a hostile interviewer. It was deeper, heavier, the kind that sank into your bones and stayed there. He could feel Liam picking up on it too. The boy spoke less, lingered in his room more, and his drawings started showing darker skies and empty streets. The social worker's visit was set for the following Friday. Until then, Keanu decided to keep life as steady as possible. Morning, pancakes, quiet walks, and evenings watching old movies. But even in those moments, he could see the worry behind Liam's eyes. On Wednesday evening, something happened that made the tension sharper. Keanu had stepped outside to bring in the mail when he noticed a black car idling across the street. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, but it didn't move for several minutes. When it finally did, It drove away slowly, almost deliberately. The next day, while Liam was at school, Keanu received a call from Mia. Her voice was urgent. Double quotes, Keanu. I don't know what's going on. But someone came by the community center asking questions about Liam personal things. They didn't say who they were, but they had a photo of him. Keanu felt a chill run down his spine. Do you think it was Raymond's people? I can't be sure, she said, but it didn't feel right. By Friday morning, he was ready when the social worker arrived. Her name was Claire, a woman in her 30s, with kind eyes and a calm voice. She spent the first hour speaking privately with Liam, then walked through the house, taking notes. Keanu answered every question honestly, showing the boys art. The books they'd been reading together, even the small vegetable patch they'd planted in the backyard as Claire was preparing to leave. Liam came into the kitchen, holding a folded piece of paper. This is for you, he said, handing it to her when she opened it. Inside was a simple drawing to stick figures standing under a tree, one tall and one smaller, both smiling. Under it, Liam had written in uneven letters, "Home is where. Someone waits for you." Claire's eyes softened, but she said nothing except, "Thank you, Liam. I'll keep this." Later that night, after Liam was asleep, Keanu's phone buzzed again. It was a number he didn't recognize. When he answered, a low voice said, "You should step aside, Mr. Reeves. The boy will be with his blood soon enough. Don't make this harder than it has to be." The call ended before Keanu could respond. He sat there in the quiet, the hum of the refrigerator, the only sound. He knew now that Raymond wasn't just waiting for the court's decision, he was trying to intimidate him instead of fear. Something else stirred in Keanu, a steady, unshakable resolve. He had promised Liam that he wouldn't be alone, and he meant it. What neither of them knew was that the next week would bring a moment that would force Keanu to prove that promise. Not in a courtroom, but in a split-second decision that could change everything. Asterisk, it was the following Tuesday, just 3 days before the final court hearing. The afternoon sky was heavy with clouds, the kind that made the city feel smaller, quieter. Liam had stayed late at school for an art project, and Keanu was on his way to pick him up. The streets were damp from an earlier drizzle, and the air carried that faint metallic smell that comes before rain. When he pulled up to the school gates, Liam wasn't there. His teacher, Ms. Hayes, stepped outside when she saw Keanu. "He left a few minutes ago," she said. "He said you were parked across the street." Keanu's stomach tightened. He hadn't been there. Without another word, he scanned the street and spotted a black car, the same one from before, pulling away fast. He didn't think. He just turned the wheel and followed. Traffic was light, but the driver ahead seemed to know he was being chased. The black car swerved through side streets. Picking up speed, Keanu's heart pounded, but his hand stayed steady on the wheel. Finally, the car turned into an old industrial area, stopping behind a row of abandoned warehouses. Before it could disappear behind a gate, Keanu pulled up beside it and jumped. Out Raymond was there, standing next to the open car door, his hand gripping Liam's arm. The boy's face was pale, his eyes wide. "What are you doing?" Keanu's voice was low, controlled, but the air around him was electric. "I'm taking what's mine," Raymond said flatly. "You've had your time to play guardian, but it's over." Keanu stepped closer, his voice firm but even. "You're scaring him. Let go." Raymond smirked, but there was a flicker of hesitation. "You think you're the hero here, Reeves? You're just an actor. I'm blood. The court will side with me." "Maybe," Keanu said, "but right now, the court isn't here. I am. And I'm telling you, let him go." For a moment, no one moved. The air was thick with the unspoken truth that this wasn't just about law or blood, it was about who would stand up for the boy when it mattered most. Finally, Ahmad released his grip, shoving Liam toward Keanu. "This isn't over," he muttered before getting back into the car and driving off. Keanu knelt in front of Liam, his hand steady on the boy's shoulders. "Are you okay?" Liam nodded, but his voice was small. "I knew you'd come." The court hearing that Friday was different. The social worker's report spoke of stability, safety, and emotional connection. She even showed the judge Liam's drawing, When the judge asked Liam where he wanted to live, he didn't hesitate. With Keanu, he said, "He's my family." The judge's ruling was final. Keanu was granted legal guardianship. It wasn't just a victory in the courtroom, it was a promise made real. That night, back at home, Liam left his duffel bag by the door for the first time without unpacking it. Instead, he went to the kitchen table, pulling out paper and crayons. He drew 2 stick figures again, under the same tree as before, but this time there was a house behind them and a sun in the sky. Underneath, in bigger letters, he wrote, "Home is here." Keanu placed the drawing on the fridge. Outside, the night was calm. Inside, there was a quiet peace. Keanu knew life would still bring challenges, but for now, they had something stronger than fear, stronger than lost each other. And in the stillness, he realized this was what he had been talking about that night on Joe Rogan's show. Love, kindness, the choice to stand by someone no matter what. It wasn't just words. It was life.